down. Welcome to the Easy Reader debates. Candidates for being here. Thanks for everybody else coming up. I'm just going to run through how the night's going to go. Obviously, the first hour is going to be the own debate. This is Kelsey Pegler from Beach Reporter and Dave Mendez from Easy Reader. My name is Mark McDermott. I'm the editor of the Easy Reader and the moderator. Not the moderator. I do my best. So there'll be 1 minute. There'll be a round of questions, 1 minute answers for each candidate, and then a 30-second rebuttal round. For the candidates, at 15 seconds there'll be a bell, and that will give you the clue that your time's about up. There'll be 2-minute closing statements. Again, there'll be a bell at 15 seconds remaining. With that, let's have at it. Let's start with Kelsey.
Hi, okay, so one of the biggest issues in Redondo Beach, we want to talk about the fine line between development and overdevelopment in the city. What do you consider good development and what is bad development, and what directions should the city be moving into? Also, a lot of people think that Redondo Beach is Manhattan Beach 20 years ago. How do you stop Redondo Beach from becoming Manhattan Beach or Santa Monica in 2017? And so we're going to start with Michael Ian Sachs.
Well, very difficult question. Overdevelopment could be a term that could be considered to be subjective for some. Any development could be overdevelopment for some people I've run into over the last 4 months. There has to be a balance, and to find that balance, we have to work together. We have to get business groups together with residents groups on both sides, like the yes and the no people, to find out what that balance is so we're not constantly running into these divisive measures. Every 2 or 3, 4 years, we're dividing the town, trying to figure out what that should be. So my role would be to bring these sides together to find that balance instead of taking one side and fighting the other.
Steve, next.
Oh, there's more only one Steve up here. Overdevelopment, I'll agree with Michael.
Can you stand up, please? We can't see anything. Other than there's no mic.
How's that? I'll stand up. Okay, I'll agree with Michael. Overdevelopment or development is very subjective, depending on what side of the street you live on or where you live. You know, we'll have like our infamous Legato project around the corner. 180 units is too many, and now 115 is too many. Well, there's no happy medium, really, depending on if it's in your neighborhood or not. I live in a single-family residential area, and I like to keep it that way. I used to live in a 2-lot condo on Curtis, and that was the way it was up there, but we chose a single-family area. If you have like the place over at Pearl Plaza, I'll call it now. It's the car dealership. We voted that down. I did vote against, but now unfortunately it's still a old car dealership. So, I don't know what to tell you. We can't fit the Santa Monica question in 1 minute, though.
Harry Coleman.
Now is the time to make Redondo great again. We're hurting, folks, hurting bad, but not for long. And while some speak of building a future super pier mall, I say, why stop there? Together, we are going to build a world-class, state-of-the-art amusement park. It's going to be the best. It's going to be a wonderland. You people are going to have so much fun, you're going to be sick of having fun. People are going to come from all over to witness this truly tragic, magic kingdom. We're going to have attractions, the best attractions too, like the Rent Coaster 9000, Bruce's Drench Zone, Lawyers of the Riviera, a monorail, Seamus's zipline tours, whale rides, fun, pandemonium, heart-pounding excitement, and edge-of-your-pants thrills. Also, ISIS is in Hermosa, so we need to rebuild that wall.
Bill Wren.
Thank you, Mark. Thanks for coming, everybody. Overdevelopment is on the verge of being rampant in Redondo Beach. I'm the slow growth candidate. What's been driving me and these projects, actually, is the mixed-use zoning that exists in Redondo primarily, that allows 35 units per acre in various areas, including the Legato area, which everyone is so objecting to. There's not much we can do about it because of that zoning. We need to fix that zoning. Whether it's the heart of the city, whether it was rezoning Torrance Boulevard, or now this huge mall that's going in down on the waterfront, and what's to come at the AES site, we need new leadership. We need to change the direction of this city, and development is front and center of what this election is about. So you need to vote right. You need to vote yes on Measure C. You need to vote for Brand for mayor, Nils for District 1 council, Todd in 2, and Susie Royds in District 4.
Chris Moore.
Thank you. And point of procedure, because I came in late, the bell signifies we're out of time.
15 seconds.
15 seconds.
2 bells is you're done.
All right, let's count as this time.
So it's done.
And I want to apologize to everyone for coming in late. I was told that the mayoral debates wouldn't start till 7, that the Measure C debate would be from 6 to 7. This is not how I normally do things. Can I have the moderator repeat the question, please?
Sure. Okay, great. Sorry, you're gonna have to forgive my mic.
It's okay, the time won't start until you start.
Okay, so talk about the fine line between development and overdevelopment in Redondo Beach. What is good development and what is bad development, and what direction should the city move into? Also, a lot of people think Redondo Beach is Manhattan Beach 20 years ago. How do you stop the city from becoming Manhattan Beach or Santa Monica?
That's a great question. That really is. What we have in front of us as we look out our windows, as we walk along Ocean Drive, as we walk along the waterfront, that is what Redondo Beach is. That's who we are. The image that CenterCal would have you believe is the future of Redondo Beach is a fantasy. It is a disaster waiting to happen. It is overdevelopment, which will only lead to years of litigation and environmental damage. It will make us, in the long run, extremely regretful that we took that course. We have a beautiful waterfront, which we need to revitalize and augment. And as your mayor, I will market that waterfront to bring new and returning clientele. Thank you.
All right, we'll have a 30-second rebuttal round. I know it's not direct rebuttal because it's not a two-person debate here, but just pick and choose. We'll just do the same order. It's 30 seconds each. Anything that was said that you want to follow up on?
Well, I don't know about the amusement park, but again, we should be able to balance these issues. It shouldn't be so divisive. We want most of our neighborhoods to be R1. We don't want them to be 2 on a lot. We don't want 3, 4. This is basic. When it comes to the waterfront, I would think there could have been some middle ground there so we didn't get to this point. But we do have needs. We need to balance those needs with business, with residents. Those two.
But yeah, it's just
Oh, I don't get a one.
Whatever you want.
Same word?
There's no one bell in 30-second round.
One bell? You know, it's a myth about mixed use. Now, on our general plan committee we're coming up with, it's okay to lower the density to 30 units per acre. That's up to that committee and the council to figure out. But there are very successful mixed use places, including at Avenue I. There's a wonderful one down there with restaurants. And, you know, they're not all like they're taboo. And I think like the Galleria will one day be a little mixed use. And so will 1800 PCH is mixed use and is successful.
I heard Sachs say he doesn't know about the amusement park. Let me tell you this, it's time to drain the lagoon, metaphorically and physically. Our administration is going to be so transparent, it will be invisible. Folks, it's time to make, also in reference to LaGuardia, this is classic door in the face technique, folks. They originally wanted to build 80 condo units, and they knew if they pressed for 200, they would ultimately get 120. It's door in the face technique, it's classical psychology, and it's being used against all of you.
Mixed use is the crux of it. We have a great opportunity to revitalize many areas in Redondo Beach, but we do need to eliminate this dense residential. The Galleria is zoned to allow 600 apartments at 35 units per acre. We saw what happened at Legato. We have a great opportunity to look at all these areas, change the zoning, not just from 35 to 30 units per acre, but to basically rework our mixed use and look more towards horizontal mixed use and not these tall vertical buildings. So, yeah, I look forward to rezoning mixed use.
There's really not much you can say in 30 seconds. What I can say is that on February 9th, we had a closed-door debate with the staff of the Daily Breeze, just mayoral candidates and ourselves, and I pointed out that we can't build on the AES power plant site because it's contaminated. Bill Brand agreed with that. He went on to state that he's been in discussion with big developers who say they can build on that site. Of course they can. Of course they'll say they can. They want the government contracts.
We're on to the second round of questions. Just a note on the shortness. We just have a lot of ground to cover. I apologize for the 1 minute. I know it's challenging. 30 seconds, but covered a lot of ground tonight. David Mendez.
Mayor Aspel, you've expressed regret over voting for Heart of the City while sitting on the Redondo Beach Planning Commission, calling Heart of the City a mistake. Twice as mayor, you've had an opportunity to stop the Legato Redondo development project using your veto. Both times you've chosen not to. Why did you choose not to use your veto on either occasion? And what do you feel is the purpose of the mayoral veto?
The Heart of the City, that's back in 2001. The interesting thing was that was the Planning Commission, and the whole entire goal was to get rid of the AES power plant. And ironically, the guy who formed the committee, the group that started the petition was Chris Cagle. And he started the whole no growth movement, or slow growth. And he ended up being my campaign manager 4 years ago. So there is room in the middle to meet with people. And you come to an agreement. As far as Legato, it was 115 units. And I just figured the council voted that way, so we will let the lawyers figure it out. The last week, when we had it, vetoing wouldn't have helped. It just would have sent it back to the courts. So now we're going to see what happens with the lawyers anyway.
Okay, that was a question. That was, we have the structure. There's a couple specific questions for the two candidates that have been involved thus far. There's another one from Bill.
Councilmember Brand, in 2008, you expressed support for a model square footage for the waterfront. What has changed, and why recuse yourself on the biggest issue of the city? Would you have to recuse yourself as mayor on all waterfront issues going forward if you were to be elected?
No, I recused myself on the Center Cal project, and the evaluating the EIR was a very specific example. I had to recuse myself. I had already made up my mind. It was quite clear what was going on there. But yeah, the mayoral position, in response to Steve, clearly is very powerful in Redondo Beach. And whenever there's a 3-2 vote and there's no veto, you can basically consider that a 4-2 vote, and that you have support from the mayor. But you really can't get anything done in Redondo Beach unless you have 4 votes or support of the mayor. So yeah, it's an unusual situation. But in terms of all this development and what we're talking about and the idea of revitalizing these areas, there's no question that we have a great opportunity here. Is that time up or 15 seconds? Oh, that's it. That's good.
Now that we have a more general question for the three political newcomers here, relatively. Who has it, Chelsea?
So for the other candidates, Mr. Michael Yensak, Sarah Coleman, Chris Mowat, what is it that you bring to the table that the other mayoral candidates do not have? Let's start with yourself, Mr. Mowat.
What I bring 25 years of leadership and management experience. And with that, you learn that you don't run. You don't run from the tough issues. You don't recuse yourself because you've already made up your mind. You make a point because you've made up your mind. You lobby for that point. It's the mayor's job to represent the people and to lobby for the people what he thinks or she thinks is the best interest of the people. As mayor, I will not recuse myself from any position that I think is in the best interest of the residents, based upon what I hear from you.
Eric?
First of all, what I bring to the table is a whole bunch of note cards, but I'll show you what else I bring to the table. Now, everyone is talking about, oh, they love the pier so much, what to do about the pier. None of these candidates actually go to the pier. Sachs, sometimes, he goes to the pier, but nobody else goes to the pier. I'm there all the time. Those are receipts from today. This is from today.
Heineken. Yeah. Charlie's place.
I don't have that many receipts. One from Tony occasionally and not. But I recently retired from a company, worked at a effluent treatment plant, gained extensive knowledge on environmental rules, regulation, permitting. I also was involved in infrastructure maintenance of the facility and managing budgets in the millions of dollars. I was also a chief steward, and I worked on a labor committee to negotiate a contract with the company. I was also heavily involved in conflict resolution, and that's what brought me into this race, seeing if I could be a positive force in any way to change our adversarial politics. Of all those qualifications, when I get around the city, they seem to like my qualification of not having anything to do with city politics in the last 8 years. But I hope to be a unifying force and work together with everyone.
Okay, now we'll have a 30-second vote round on this again. Why don't we start with Steve?
What was the question again after the receipts?
It was regarding what the other candidates bring to the table.
You can use this for anything.
And you can really use it.
Rebuttals to anything that was said in the last.
Anything. Yeah, the pier, it's funny about the pier, we'll take up that quickly. We go down there a lot. I was down there, I'll give you an example. I walked from Kincaid's to the Portofino 3 weeks ago, and it was a brisk but beautiful night. And I think we counted like 12 people there on a Saturday night at 8:30. It's not like it's good people or bad people, or there's just no people down there. And we need to get businesses, regardless of what happens on Measure C, we need to get business down there to help pay for, you know, our services that we use.
Yeah, what our opportunity is at the waterfront anyway is to put the AES property site along with our waterfront, along with the AES power or the Edison right-of-way lines together and do a comprehensive rezoning of our waterfront. That's what we need to do. Put the open space and recreational uses down on the waterfront where they belong, back up the commercial, spread out the impacts. This piecemeal overdevelopment that is proceeding is going to double the traffic, block our views, build on the only park we have down there. This has been driven by Mayor Aspel and the rest of the council. I'm opposed.
Just like to correct something, I was in the endorsement interview, and I don't recall Mr. Brand having the same feeling that Mr. Mowat seemed to think about the AES property and how contaminated it is. With that being said, I would hope people would keep, or our officials would keep an open mind about any of these serious issues and not make early determinations. To recruit yourself early, I would hope you'd wait for the lease to be finalized in January. We didn't even know the numbers until January 15th. I know the size, but it could have been a determining factor. Sorry.
Thanks. Go ahead.
Yeah, let's all gang up on Bill Brand. Hey, Brand, we start banning plastic bags. How are people supposed to pick up dog poop?
but
If Bill Brand disagreed with what I said, if he disagreed with my recollection of what was said, I'm sure just now he would have said, I did not say that. He didn't. And there were 4 members of the Daily Breeze recording that conversation. Now you have to ask yourself, the people asking for re-election, the people asking to be elevated to another position after having been in city council for many years, you must ask the question, what have you done? You've had 4 years to tackle these issues. What have you done? Thank you.
What have you done, Mowat?
I support you, Eric. I gave you one of those.
All right, next round of questions.
receipts aside, let's start talking housing. About half the city's residents are renters. From 2009 to 2015, net housing units have increased by 72, far below the regional housing needs allocation. Is the city in a housing crisis? And does mixed-use development, as we spoke of earlier, have a role in the city's future?
No, we are not in a housing crisis. Redondo Beach is one of the most densely populated areas in the country, 43rd in population density for cities over 50,000. Regional housing needs assessment, it was a small number, largely because of the activism of the residents to prevent a lot of these large projects from going up. We do need to have some growth in Redondo Beach, some reasonable balanced growth, but mixed-use zoning is allowing these huge projects to come up that faces tremendous opposition from the residents, and the city often has little options because of state law to approve a lot of these projects. So there haven't been a lot of units, but if it was up to Mayor Aspel, there would have been 3,000 on the AES power plant site, another 189 down Torrance Boulevard. So we need a slow growth approach.
Mr. Sachs.
No, I don't believe there's an issue generally, but for affordable housing, there definitely is. We have a homeless issue, a group called PATH, People Assisting the Homeless. They work to get the homeless into lodging. It's a constant issue. We have a Measure H coming up that would help out with services for the homeless. These are things we should be focused on to generate low-income housing to help these people. As far as in general, though, obviously we are a pretty dense community in many areas, so my focus would be more on low-income housing and helping the homeless.
Mr. Moore.
I'm not sure that there's a housing shortage. What I do see are skyrocketing rents that are tearing this community apart. Not just residential, but commercial as well. Good families are being torn from this community. Businesses are having an increasingly difficult time, not just bringing in business, but paying the rent for their business and putting food on their table. I'm in favor of rent control zones, not across the city, just in certain areas where we can roll back residential rents, perhaps 2 years, just what they were 2 years ago. Our inconvenient truth is that many of us are still recovering from the financial situation of a few years ago.
Mr. Coleman.
Right now we have a South Redondo that resembles Palos Verdes Jr. and North Redondo that looks like Lawndale Light. But now as far as the homeless, we have hundreds of homeless people right now, hungry, sometimes even starving homeless people. But I think I found a solution. What we do is we feed the homeless. That way we have a smaller, well-fed group of homeless people. Some might call it a modest proposal.
I don't need a microphone like that. You know, I have 2 daughters, 24 and 26, and they have a lot of friends that are all Redondo High graduates. If you ask them, we have a housing crisis. Renters are not bad people. The majority of people in our city are renters, and sometimes we treat them like they're ogres. And, you know, putting apartments in places like my daughters, I don't see them living here in the future because people my age we don't like change, and we think every bit of traffic starts right in our backyard. If you go down to Fatburgers on any morning at PV Boulevard and PCH, and you'll see all the traffic coming from Torrance, coming from Palos Verdes. It doesn't originate all at that corner, but yeah, I think we do have a need for our young people to have a place to live, and I'm not advocating rent control because that'd be property violating their rights, but you know, we need a place for our young people. That's it.
Okay, now we'll have a 30-second rebuttal round starting same word.
We don't have a housing crisis, folks. We have a growing traffic crisis. We'll have a recurring water crisis when the drought returns, which we all know it will. And we will have soon have school overcrowding if this overdevelopment continues. The school board is particularly concerned about what's going to happen at the Galleria and with these other mixed-use developments. So, you know, we keep harping about mixed use, but it's got to get reduced. And until then, you're going to see a huge growth in traffic and a huge growth in these other impacts. Redondo Beach has a great mix of housing already.
Mr. Jackson.
Well, I would focus more on you know, what our schools can handle. They're towards the edge of what they could handle. There's certain, if you have residences that have 2 or 3 bedrooms, that would affect how our schools would be able to operate. We need to minimize our class size as much as we can. But that being said, again, I don't think it's a crisis. I think we could work together, again, to figure this out without rent control or homeless, whatever that was.
Mr. Millet.
I believe that one of the main reasons why younger people can't find a place to live in Redondo is because the rents are skyrocketing. Now, I'm not saying across the board, I'm not saying the entire city, but there are certain areas where families, as I said, are struggling to still recover, and they need help. And it's our job in city government to help the residents, to be there for you, not for ourselves.
What got us into the traffic problem to begin with was we used to have the red cars here in the 20s, 30s, and 40s. We had one of the most efficient transportation light rail systems in the entire world. GM, Firestone, and Standard Oil bought it up just to tear it up, replaced it with buses, so we don't need this light rail system anymore. And Los Angeles was a test case, a social experiment to see if people would lobby their local governments or to reinstate or rebuild this very efficient light rail system, or would they just buy cars? And the last GM bus ran in 1962. But we're going to bring back the red cars, and if you don't like that idea, we're going to build a monorail.
Mr.
Essman. Here's a darts going. I find it fascinating. Somebody without kids is telling me about overcrowding in schools. If you talk to the school board or Dr. Keller, we have a huge percentage of our children in schools are permit kids, which is fine. We love the permit kids because they're going to fill up the seats no matter what. If there was an influx of new people with children, the school board would know that and they wouldn't allow the permit kids in. And we are not bursting at the seams to lead a school while it's packed, would not have the permits. So there's plenty of room for the kids that live here.
All right, now we're going to go into the closing statements. We're running a little bit ahead of time, so we're going to extend the closing statements to be 3 minutes instead of 2. That's cool with everybody? You got 3 minutes with that too? I'm sure Eric does.
We have a half hour.
So, Mr. Sachs.
Well, I gotta say, it's been an honor to be on the ballot. The councilman, the mayor, Mr. Mowat, Mr. Coleman. They're all good men. I respect them all. Kind of disconcerting to see some of the language used towards both of them, the councilman and the mayor. With that being said, I already feel like I'm a winner. The process is incredible, meeting all the people I've met, business associations, resident groups, all the candidates. You have 8 candidates for 3 districts. I've met most of them and chatted with them. Incredibly proud to be a Redondo Beach resident. You should be too. I'm at a huge disadvantage. One of my tenets is that I don't believe candidates should be raising and spending other people's money. So that's why, even though I have high name and recognition on the ballot, you probably haven't heard of it. But that's one of my tenets. I believe it's a slippery slope, and it can cause us, our public officials, to maybe at some point represent the few over the many. When it comes to the waterfront Measure C, I thought I would make a determination, but after meeting both groups, they both had valid arguments, and you'll hear more about that in the next hour. Many valid arguments. And I have not taken a side, because I am offering a different approach. Instead of taking a side to an issue where basically you have infrastructure needs we have coming due in the next 10 years of approximately $100 million. We have a developer we chose, a reputable business, who designed a development per Measure G, which was voted by the voters, coming in with $100 million and developing the property. We couldn't find middle ground on this. Instead, we have a divisive Measure C again, another measure, and there's no right answer. Each of you have to make a decision for your own. What's best for you, what you think is best for the city. Voting for someone because they're yes or no, that's only one. It's a big issue, but it's only one thing. There's many factors that go into voting for a candidate. So I would take the approach as mayor to, instead of taking one side and fighting the other, I would bring the two sides together. That would be my role. Instead of taking sides, the mayor doesn't have a vote. I know it's a different approach, but the way we've been doing it hasn't been working. We keep getting to these divisive measures, and then we end up going nowhere. We still have a power plant sitting there. We have an empty Galleria. So I will work hard the next couple weeks during your vote. My name's Michael Ian Sachs, and it's time to work together. Thank you.
Steve Aspel.
There's 2 or 3. Okay, I'll start out where Ian. My name's Steve Aspel, and I am the mayor.
Yeah.
And when I ran 12 years ago for council, one of my neighbors around the corner, Gertruda, complained to me. She thought I knew somebody. I was on the planning commission, and she thought I knew people in the city council that could help her get some crossing guards that were taken away due to budget cuts. And that was my only campaign pledge 12 years ago, that will bring back crossing guards. So about a week after I got elected, the crossing guards came back, because that was an easy thing to take care of, and the city staff took care of that for me. There was no big agendas back then, but my whole thing ever since then has been about our public safety. We live in a lot more dangerous world than we had 12 years ago, and I was worried about crossing guards now we're worried about bombers at our 10K. And, you know, last night we just approved something with the police department. We're finally up to a full complement of police officers, but we're not done with that. We're going to hire more. We overhired lieutenants and captains and sergeants. We now have more dogs. We have 4 canines plus a vaporwave dog, and the vaporwave dog has been used in other cities already. And they go to your high school or your schools if there's an alert for there's a scare. So, you know, when you're the mayor, you get blamed for things too. So with the mayor, you take the credit for things. So under my leadership, we are now back with a happy police department and fully staffed police officers, fully staffed 85 cops, and we're going to hire more. You know, I have, over all those things about overdevelopment, that's a policy question. And the Measure C, we hope will bring some clarity to the situation. If people ask me at this point, I am opposed to Measure C, obviously, but if you feel like voting yes on Measure C, vote yes on Measure C. The city's the day after the election, the city's gonna come to work. We're gonna go and start, and running the city. It's not all about the waterfront. You know, we have, the next day we will have people out there saying, okay, let's see what we can do with this harbor if Measure C passes. It won't happen for 5 or 6 or 10 years or longer, because we're not very well liked by developers in this city. We tend to scare them away. But, bottom line is we have police, we have fire, we have 911. It's our own. I know he's denied it, but Mr. Brand 4 times has asked about going outside. We're never going to go outside, but raising the question about getting rid of our own 911 is ludicrous. We have 911 in this building next door. If you outsource, it may take 1 second longer, it might take the same. But if this person down here is answering the phone, they work in Redondo Beach, they're not in Bangladesh answering your phone. And if your kid is choking, you want them now. But anyway, this city is a lot more to it than the waterfront. We have 5 districts. We've got to rebuild the Galleria of some form. There will never be 800 or plus apartments there ever, no matter who's mayor. That will not happen. And, we just have the object of being mayor is to run the city, balance the budget, and hopefully we can get along with people. Done? That was 3 minutes. Okay, thank you.
Harry Coleman.
I am glad that you mentioned public safety, Mayor Aspel, public safety, because we don't talk about it enough. We really don't. I want a police officer in every living room. And more than that, it is a top priority in my administration. That's why I am introducing a plan to issue demerits to any Redondo resident who does anything unsafe. After 3 demerits for public safety violations, they will be encased in a hamster ball for the rest of their short, sweaty lives. Now, just finally, we are going to build the biggest, baddest, most insane to the max amusement theme park the world has ever seen. And we're going to have terrific rides, fantastic rides, like the Rent Coaster 9000. Let me show you the prototype for the Rent Coaster 9000. Now, this is based on the Big Dipper from 100 years ago, a roller coaster that used to be at the Pleasure Pier. And let me tell you, the gravity-defying roller coaster will leave riders in absolute shell shock. You see in the back? This gravity-defying roller coaster will leave residents in absolute shell shock. And just like our launch platform, the rents in Redondo will go up to dizzying heights. Dizzying heights. Now, the best thing about this whole thing is it is completely cannot be destroyed. It's indestructible. Anything like hurricane, earthquake, tsunami, recession, PADOS, it doesn't matter. It cannot be destroyed. Watch. Oh, geez, that must have been the weak part, but the rest of it, completely indestructible. Watch.
All right, watch that hammer, bro.
Do I have your attention? Vote Coleman and end this bloody nightmare.
Bill Brand.
Well, I forgot what I was going to say. Dodging wood pieces. Anyway, this election is not so much about ensuring public safety. We have unanimous votes whenever it comes to public safety and ensuring that we have police and fire services. Police come on time, the firemen show up. It's really not a debate about that. All I really ever asked for actually were resource studies so that we can all have an idea of what all these things cost us, what our options might be. I think it's incumbent as an elected official who's in charge of city finances to know what things cost and why we're paying for them. And I did preliminary work with other cities and it shows that our 911 service is costing us about an extra $1 million a year than it should. But I couldn't even get the council to go along with the resource study. Anyway, it's not about that as much as it is about the development future of Redondo Beach, whether it's the waterfront, the Galleria, what's happening on PCH. The whole area from PCH, from PV Boulevard to Prospect is zoned for 35 units per acre, so there's going to be more legatos. I've been calling for this for about 10 years, and I've been stonewalled by the council and Mayor Aspel. The waterfront, I mean, it's just ridiculous that we're even looking at this project. I can't even believe what I see. Of course I made up my mind before. You really have to think about whether that's appropriate or not. No, we need, as I said, to put the areas together and do a comprehensive plan. We need to do something similar at the Galleria, work with the partners, develop partnerships with Forest City, revitalize Artesia Boulevard, redo mixed use, and do a proper revisioning of our waterfront. These are the important issues that are going to shape Redondo Beach going forward. And you need the right leadership, you need the right partnership, and you need a council and a mayor that are going to take you where you want the city to go. And enough already was saying this isn't about development. This is absolutely going to determine the future of Redondo Beach. And all you got to do is drive down Pacific Coast Highway. We are not a pass-through city. 85% of Redondo residents who work leave Redondo to go to work. You want to go to pass-through city? That's Manhattan and El Segundo, clearly. And we all contribute. So growing traffic is a huge problem and something we're going to have to deal with. As far as housing goes, you know, it's always going to be expensive to live by the beach. If you want to live by the beach, go to college, work hard, get a good job, do well, and you'll be living in Redondo Beach and maybe even on the Esplanade. So we're not going to fix the housing crisis and the affordability crisis by adding more housing in Redondo Beach. So I've been here since 1966. I look forward to your support. I've got 8 years of experience up here and a lot of experience doing the hard nuts and bolts type of stuff. So I look forward to your support on March 7th. Thank you.
Chris Vaughn.
You get one vote every 4 years. One chance to have your voice heard. In order to really make an informed decision, you need to look at all of our websites, because there just isn't enough time here today to go into all the issues, to go into our positions, and more importantly, what we are willing to do to tackle these issues. When you look at our websites, you need to decide, are you reading or hearing the same tired old promises from every election before, or which candidate is willing to put in writing what they will do? Are the issues that concern them the issues that concern you? And if so, how will they tackle those problems? Because if they won't put in writing what they're willing to do, then you must look for another candidate. You must vote for change. Now, I'm going to give you the name of my website, ChristopherMowatforMayor.com, and I would ask the moderator to allow each of us to give the names of our websites to be fair. But going forward, some of the issues we did not get into here, and some I'll rebut in the minute and a half I have left. Eric reminded me, marijuana dispensaries are coming to Redondo Beach as of January 2018. The moratorium ends then, and there's been no discussion on where we're going to put them. No discussion of zoning. That needs to be done quickly. Time's running out. As for law enforcement, we are lucky to have the finest law enforcement professionals protecting our city, hands down. But putting more officers on the street is a tired old promise. It's a soundbite that is used at election time. This is not Detroit. This is Redondo Beach. What we need to do is improve and augment the training our professionals have. We need to, as mayor, let me just say not what we need to, I, as mayor, will hire additional city prosecutors.
And no after Pat Ost. Sorry.
You done? Okay. Those prosecutors will man the phones every shift. And when our professionals, when our police officers have a complex search and seizure, a complex traffic stop, or any situation, they can call that prosecutor, explain the situation, and the prosecutor can then tell the officer how they want to have the ticket written, the complaint written, and that will reduce the number of cases that are kicked out of court, and the ones that remain, it will reduce the number of plea bargains to an unsatisfactory result to the victims of crime and to the families of victims of crime. Those are real solutions to the real problems that we face today. And there's more. I invite you to go to our sites for more answers on all the issues before us. Thank you.
I want to thank all our candidates for being here tonight.
Could we plug our website?
Sure. Everyone want to plug the website in order?
Yeah. ChristopherMowatforMayor.com.
Coleman for Redondo.com.
BillBrand.org.
SteveAspel.com.
Michael Ian Sachs, I'm on Facebook.
All right, so we're going to take a little intermission, and we'll start with the Measure C debate at 7 o'clock sharp.